we're going to start with something that's not remotely funny. Police have been accused of failing to tackle the shoplifting epidemic after almost 800 cases a day went unsolved last year. Now, when I say 800 cases, we don't have 800 examples of shoplifting across this great nation of ours. That is 800 cases where there's evidence and investigations happen and police turn up and they're swabbing and fingerprints and CCTV, and yet they remain unsolved. How hard can it be to catch somebody that has stolen a loaf of Warburton's bread, especially the thick slice one, which is very difficult to conceal under your coat? Now, wait for this. A record 530,000 cases of shoplifting were recorded in England and Wales in the 12 months to March the 31st. The highest level since records began more than 20 years ago. We are regressing as a nation. The concept of being a human being and our story as a species is actually progress, right? We're supposed to improve. Everything's supposed to get better. That was the Charles Darwin idea, wasn't it? Natural selection and, you know, the stronger chimpanzee monkey mates with an attractive chimpanzee monkey, and then you have an even better monkey. It's the same with Mercedes-Benz cars and Apple iPhones, isn't it? The 14 is better than... No, yeah, the 14 is better than the 13. Oh, dear. Sorry, I've had a bit of a Rachel from accounts moment there. The iPhone 15 is better than the 14. That's the idea of evolution. That's the idea of progress. But we, as a society, in this once great country, are regressing. We are going backwards. And the shoplifting epidemic is the very essence of that and the perfect case study. So 500,000 cases recorded in England and Wales. And you know what I'm going to say to that, don't you? 500,000 cases. And the rest. Because shopkeepers do not bother to report most of these crimes because they're busy. They're going to get a perfunctory visit from a police officer, or maybe even just a text message from the cops with their crime reference number. Now, why is shoplifting such a problem? And why are the woke progressives ignoring it so enthusiastically? Well, they have a pathological sympathy for criminals. Right? That is the issue with leftism, is that they view criminals as victims, and therefore they have a devastatingly dangerous pathological sympathy for people that commit crimes. That is the twisted moral logic of woke progressives. These are the same people that think that Britain's history is evil, even though we ended slavery and gave the world the Industrial Revolution, representative democracy, the rule of law, and free speech. Not to mention a few other bits and pieces, including the glazed donut and the tea bag. But look, the bottom line is that we're a great country, but the woke progressives think we're evil. Crime is supposed to be bad, but the woke progressives, whose ideology has permeated our public institutions, it's permeated our media. Talk is your only hope when it comes to common sense. That's why we are the home of common sense. And it has permeated the political class, including the Conservative Party, who are now a bunch of lefties. And it has permeated the police, which is why they don't consider shoplifting to be a serious crime. And neither do the courts. That's the point. You don't need a conviction. There's no point getting a conviction and having Inspector Morse dusting for fingerprints and Columbo pitching up in his brown coat saying one last thing, or Lieutenant Frank Drebin crashing in with the police squad and the naked gun. There's no point at the cops doing their job anyway, because when it goes to court, they walk away free. So shoplifting has been decriminalised. The reason why we have an epidemic of it is very simple. You don't commit crime if you think you're going to get caught. Okay, it's all about the deterrent. That is human nature. It is the nature of a criminal to weigh up the risk of getting caught. That's the only issue that they look at, is a chance of being caught, right? That is their only criterion for crime, is will I get caught? And they know that they're not going to get caught. And if they do, then they will walk free from court itself. So the fear of being caught is absolutely critical to stop shoplifting, which is a fear that the people of Dubai have, which is effectively crime-free. And Singapore, and dare I say it, so shoot me now, Russia. Now, Russia's, run by Vladimir Putin. He's a dreadful specimen of a human being, not a nice man. He's invaded a country, an independent sovereign country. Millions of people have been injured, thousands have died. He's an awful, awful man. But I'm having to look to Russia and to Moscow with envy at the moment, because I can wander into this beautiful studio in the home of common sense, not fearful that I'm going to get my phone snatched out of my hand, that a knife is going to be placed on my neck, or that if I have the temerity to pop into a Tesco Express, a Sainsbury's local, a Co-op, and the other one, that I'm going to go into a supermarket which has Nescafe Gold Blend with a tag on it, which is the sign of a failing country. There are no tags on the Nescafe Gold Blend at the Moscow branch of Tesco Express, Teskov Express, as I believe it's called. And that's the issue. So the fact that we now have to look enviously to Russia, which is basically a horrible, corrupt dictatorship, the fact that we can look enviously to a city like Moscow, which is clean and safe by comparison to our great cities, is crushingly embarrassing, very insulting, and it's enraging. So this crime's been decriminalised. 500,000 people last year, and they couldn't care less. They are laughing at us. They're laughing at the police, they're laughing at the courts, they're laughing at you, they're laughing at me, they're laughing at the innocent shopkeeper who, and I don't know about you, but I love my convenience store. And my convenience store is open 18 hours a day. The hours that they put in, it's a family business. And yet they have to stand idly by whilst people just go steam into their store at 2 a.m, just grabbing whatever they want with impunity. And is the owner of my local convenience store, is he going to step in and risk his life when he's just had another baby? He's a family man, he's got responsibilities. It ain't going to happen. He's got CCTV. The cops aren't interested. They don't want to know. You get your phone stolen, you can tell them where the phone is. You say, officer, my phone is at 27 Acacia Avenue. It's in their living room. They're watching EastEnders. Please go and collect my phone. Do I have to pay more taxes than I currently do? Did you see that stat the other day? People don't make £100,000. The worst amount of money you can make is £100,000. Because if you make £100,000, you keep about 35 quid of that every pound. 35 quid out of every 100 is what you keep, thanks to our extortionate taxes. And yet the streets aren't safe. So the shoplifting is dangerous. Okay, these folks are aggressive when challenged. They may have a weapon. Are you going to take your chances? And why should somebody that works at Sainsbury's or Co-op or a Tesco Express or any of those brands, Aldi, Lidl, why should they, on 12 quid an hour, risk their lives to stop a disgusting thug? Well, I came off air last week, I think it was the Tuesday night, and I popped into one of these stores on my way home to get some of that high-protein yoghurt because my body's a temple and I've got to hit my protein goals. But I couldn't go in because two lads were being dragged out of the supermarket by a security guard and several members of staff. And it was actually a miraculous scene because those folks were very brave. But I chatted with them afterwards and they said that there are 15 to 20 incidents like that every single day. And we're very lucky as citizens that these supermarket staff bother. But at a certain point, they won't. And why should they? This shoplifting epidemic, the one issue with it as well is the messaging is catastrophic. Because it says to these people, it says to society really, you don't have to pay for things. The social contract is over and you don't have to pay for things. It suggests that we're afraid of them, that they've won. And of course, shoplifting is a stepping stone, isn't it? It's a gateway drug to further crime. Of course it is. Because that takes you into that criminal mindset. And they're starting young. 8, 9, 10 years of age. Gangs are sending these kids in to steal bottles of rum and vodka and Nescafe blinking Gold Blend. Why is Nescafe Gold Blend so popular these days? It's got a tag on it. So it sends a message you don't have to pay for this. It demonstrates that criminality is tolerated and it means that crime will only grow. But here's the kicker, and I'm going to talk to Isabel Oakeshott in just a moment, who actually spends some of her time in Dubai. Isn't she lucky? I'd love to go there. I might speak to the boss of Talk and just move to Dubai and do the show from there. On the beach, maybe? And not with my pale skin. Good luck. I'd be crisped up like a bacon sandwich. But look, here's the kicker. Shoplifting is unfair. It's unfair on the people that work hard, who are struggling with the cost of living, and they have to go in and they're buying their goods. You know, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for that? Meanwhile, someone else comes in, grabs the wine, grabs the steak, grabs the infamous Nescafe Gold Blend, and walks out of the shop like butter wouldn't melt in their mouth. Again, a bit like the shop workers who step in. At a certain point, the public will also think, why do I bother? Why am I paying for this stuff? Why don't I walk out as well? And then you've got a complete breakdown in society. And do you know what they're doing? They are mugging us off, because we all pay the price, you see. It's not a victimless crime. Because with all of this shoplifting, there are insurance claims by the business. So that pushes the cost of insuring a supermarket up. They will pass that cost on to us. So we pay, and we're the mugs because we pay twice. And we're being laughed at, and it's exactly the same as the road. Because, you know, woe betide you for paying your taxes and your car tax and insuring your car and making sure it's got the MOT and checking those tyres that are not bald and the tread is good and all that stuff, right? You're an idiot for doing that. What you want to do is be an uninsured driver, because then you don't get the parking tickets. When you get flashed, they don't have your address. And when, God forbid, there's an accident, you walk away unscathed because you're uninsured. The messaging is that the criminals are winning, and we, the people who abide by the laws, pay our taxes and participate in the diminishing social contract, are complete and utter fools. They're making mugs of us. I'm personally deeply insulted, and whoever gets in 4 years' time should consider shoplifting, petty crime, antisocial behaviour top of their priority list to tackle lawless Britain. Your reaction, can you tell me anecdotes, your stories of witnessing shoplifting? 0344 499 1000. Let me know what's happened. Let me know how it's made you feel. And let me know what your solution is. I'm delighted to have Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. And Isabel, you spend some of your time in Dubai, where shoplifting is not a problem.
Yeah, that's right. I am based for most of the year actually in Dubai. Got back yesterday from a few weeks in lovely UK. And, you know, I've got so much to say on this. And I think you mentioned that you'd love to come out here. Please do, because I would love for you to see for yourself the contrast in standards of behaviour. And I think public perceptions in the UK about why that is are so vastly removed from reality. It's not because you get your hands chopped off if you steal. It's that there's a culture of maintaining certain behavioural standards and respect. And there is a sort of assumption of honest behaviour. And there are a lot of reasons about that which we can go into. I know we've got to jump to a break shortly. But I would just say, as a little observation, one of the first things I noticed when I moved out here was that if you're in a shopping mall, in a big shopping centre, they let you take a trolley from one shop to another. So you can put items in from one store and then trolley around to your next shop. And that would never be allowed in the UK, because there would be an assumption that you'd be up to no good, that you'd be filling your trolley with lots of different things from different shops and trying to get away with it. And here there is just a basic assumption that you are going to be honest and behave properly. And by and large, in fact, I've never known a case of people not doing that.
So this is cultural. This isn't really about resource and, you know, making sure there are enough coppers. This is something that the citizens participate in. This is the social contract in Dubai that we don't have here in the UK anymore.
You know, when you arrive at the international airport here, there are signs up. They're quite discreet, but they're really clear, and they set out the principles of the leadership here
Mm.
and what the deal is, basically. In a nutshell, they set out what's expected of you and what the ambition and vision of the leadership is. And people who are here are only here thanks to the government allowing us to be here. You know, we are here as long as we behave properly. And by and large, you know, it's 80% expat in Dubai. People have come here to work, to better themselves. They come from all over the world, and they do know that if they break the rules, they're going to be kicked out. Contrast with the UK, if you break the rules, basically nothing happens at all if you're an immigrant. I mean, I'm effectively an immigrant, an expat or immigrant, whatever you want to call it. I don't expect to be given anything here. You know, it's a privilege that I'm here and I have to behave properly. And everybody knows that. And there's another thing that you and I are probably going to disagree on, and we might talk about it later, and that is to do with ID cards. You know, there is no such thing as being anonymous here. Everybody has to have an ID card, and I can tell you it makes a huge difference to security because, you know, the safety of knowing if someone comes into your house, you just ask for their ID, you know who they are. If something disappears from your house, you know that all you need to do is contact the authorities and they'll soon be on the next flight out.